Recently, Madison County Clerk Olivia Pratt announced that the Madison County Election Board will be implementing new measures for the general election this November. She was kind enough to spend a few minutes with us to explain about what should result in swifter and safer voting options for many of us. Olivia, if you would, please share with us what we need to know.
Yeah, we're going to be adding two satellite centers. They're going to function pretty much exactly like the in-person room that we have here at the courthouse. They just won't be open quite as long. We're going to have them open for 1 week prior to Election Day. So anyone from all over the county can go and vote at either of those locations. One will be in Pendleton, one will be in Elwood. We tried to place them so that we have one in the northern part of the county, one in the southern part of the county, since the courthouse is here kind of in the central location.
So, if I live in Chesterfield but I work in Kokomo, I can vote in Elwood on the way home?
Yes.
I recall you also saying something about this being able to help with absentee voting.
Yes, anybody that has a completed absentee ballot, they can either put it in the mail to come back to us, or they can deliver it by hand. If they can't make it, if they live, say, in the most northern part of the county and they can't make it to the courthouse to come deliver it by hand, but they want to make sure they get it to us, they can hand deliver it to the Elwood satellite location. Same thing with Pendleton, anywhere. If one of those locations is easier for a voter to get to, they can drop off their completed absentee ballot at either of those locations. Or even further than that, if they have one and they decide that they don't want to do absentee, they can, just like they can on election day, take it to the inspector, have them void the absentee ballot so the absentee ballot will not count, and then they could vote in person at that location.
What are the deadlines for getting an absentee ballot?
The deadline to get the application in is October 22nd. If anyone wants to vote absentee, the election board strongly recommends getting that application in sooner, much rather than later. And then the deadline for us to receive your completed ballot is noon on election day. We have to have it physically in our office. It can't just be postmarked.
Let's talk about all three of those locations again and what the hours and dates are.
The northern location is going to be at Elwood City Hall, and the Pendleton location is going to be the Pendleton Library. Both of those will be open for 1 week ahead of time. So October 26th through the 30th, those are going to be open from noon to 6. And then the 31st, they will be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
The 31st being the last date that you can actually implement one of those.
Yes, for the satellite centers. The courthouse will be open much longer than that. The courthouse opens up October 6th, and that's going to be 8 to 4 every day, with the exception of the last 2 weeks. Saturday the 24th and Saturday the 31st, the courthouse will be open from 8 to 3, and Friday the 30th, we will be open 8 to 8.
And of course, all of those locations will be staffed with a bipartisan staff.
Yes, the two satellite centers are going to work just like our in-person voting location does. So those bipartisan teams will be bringing back all the ballots to the courthouse each night. So they're not going to be stored at the library or city hall. They will come back to the election room and be stored in a double-locked room with Republican and Democrat keys.
Will these satellite locations have the traditional voting computer or voting machine as we recognize it?
Yes, our new express votes that we implemented last fall, everybody voted on them in this spring election. We have those set up here at the courthouse, and we will be sending some of those out to the two locations.
Olivia, what about those who are concerned with the virus? Obviously, this helps by not having people stand in line and spend a lot of time at what might otherwise be their regular location. But what about sanitation methods and various practices in place for safeguarding?
We will have hand sanitizer at the locations. We have disinfectant to disinfect any doorknobs, tables, pens, anything that people would touch. We used Q-tips last time in the spring when we voted on the touch screen, so no one should actually be touching the screen with their fingers. Each individual voter would get their own Q-tip. It looks like one of the coronavirus swabs. It's one of those 6-inch Q-tips. They would use those. We are going to have our poll workers wearing masks. We strongly recommend that voters wear masks. We cannot require it, but we are recommending that everyone wear a mask when they go to vote. We're taking as many steps as we can. We're probably going to be putting down some 6-foot markers within the polling locations, like inside the doors. So we're pretty much taking every precaution that we can to try to make voting as accessible to people as possible, and in this time of COVID, making it as safe as possible. So that's why we went ahead and took this step to implement some satellite centers this year.
Thank you, Madison County Clerk Olivia Pratt. This has been a public service of the Buzz of Madison County.